Okay, as you can see, I'm not a youngster. I joined the army when I was 18 years old and eventually ended up in the Special Air Services where I spent 5 years. So I was one of the guys who went into the Falklands. Before that I was in Ireland. That's about as much as I can say on that particular part of my life, except the fact that getting into the SAS through their selection process was probably one of the toughest things I've done in my life and one of the best things I've done in my life, because it taught me to be very self-reliant and also to realize that the only boundaries in your life are what you have in your mind. You can overcome most physical problems if you have the right mental attitude. By that I mean, I don't mean if you've lost a leg or you've lost a limb, of course. I mean, if you've got the will to get through the pain and the discomfort, you can get to the other end, and you're usually a better person because you've grown in that process. So, in 1982, then in 1982, I moved out to Africa, and I've lived most of my life there. I'm a geologist. I did a postgraduate degree. I got my PhD from Wits University, did very well. Worked in most of the deep level mines in South Africa. At that stage when I went there, it was still apartheid, so I saw the good side and the bad side of apartheid. And I saw good people on both sides of the colour divide. And I had my children out there, so they're both South Africans. Great. My son is a racist, my daughter isn't. Really strange, but there you go. It's just the way they were brought up. And then since then, since about 1985, 86, I travelled around Africa and worked in every single African country. It's one of my little things that I've got and very few people have. So I saw a lot, I was exposed to a lot of things. I eventually met a girl in Rwanda. We stayed together for many, many years. In fact, we're still very much in touch. We'd love to be together, but everything's conspired against us. And everything was going absolutely fantastic up until about 1995. In fact, I'll tell you it was exactly 1995. I was involved in a landmine accident in Mozambique, and it's compressed 3 of my vertebrae. So the discs have been removed. I've got a load of metal in my back now. It removed part of my hip. I was told I'd never walk again. Just shows the doctors know absolutely sweet bugger all about us. It's that positive mental attitude. If a doctor tells me you can't do something, unless he's chopped my leg off or my arm, I bloody well will do it because I want to prove him wrong. So I was told I had to stop all of my sports, and like a fool I did. I believed that doing this sports would really, really sort of make it regress. Anyway, I'll come back to that later. After 1995, I spent 6 months in rehabilitation, getting my legs working back together again, and eventually it was okay. Took up my job again, started to move again right throughout the African continent. I was in Chad in 2007, got shot in the neck, just here. That's why I wear my hair the way it is. This is not a piece of sartorial, it's not a sartorial decision, it's to cover up a scar at the back of my neck. That has affected my right hand, and I get a lot of pain up there because it ripped away a lot of the nerves and everything in my neck. But what the hell, I'm survived. So again, that was just a little bit of a knock backwards. The knock backwards in Mozambique was probably the biggest because I was comatose for 3 or 4 days, and I had to go through 3 major operations to get my back done. This one in the neck was pretty easy. So from those 2 events, I've got PTSD. But that is minor compared to what comes next. What comes next is 2010. I had my own companies in Kenya and Uganda, and we were doing geological exploration all the way through Africa. We needed equipment, so I ended up deciding to go to Japan to buy my equipment. The route was from Uganda to Kenya, Kenya to Cotonou, which is the capital of Benin, then to Paris, Paris to Japan. What happened was part of my company, my employees, one of them was involved, his job was to do the logistics for me. He would pack all the cases and all the equipment that I needed. And I arrived in Japan because there was problems with my trip with all of the equipment that was supposedly, it was actually supposed to stay in Benin, and it just followed me. When I got to Japan, asked the police and the customs to please check it because I hadn't packed it, and they found drugs in it. It was only later on, after a full investigation was done by some friends in Uganda, that these guys had been doing this for about 3 years, putting drugs into my bags and shipping it throughout Africa. Nice, 2.5 kilos of, don't ask me the drugs because I don't know, we still don't know to this day what it was. So I was charged with the attempted importation of stimulant drugs into Japan. And after 1 year, I was found not guilty. I was the first foreign person ever to be found not guilty in a Japanese court. I was then taken to immigration. I was told I was coming back home. An hour before I was due to leave, the police came and took me back to court, and I went to High Court, and 1.5 years later they found me guilty based not on evidence but on the fact that in the past everybody else had been found guilty, therefore I must be. It's called the empirical law. If anybody's ever interested, I've got all of the case notes and all of the. It's still ongoing. It's not going through the Supreme Court because it's non-constitutional. But that didn't help me because I then spent 10 years from 2010 until last year, August, in Japanese jails. Japanese jails are reckoned to be internationally the harshest jails in the world. You are in solitary confinement, you've got nobody to talk to, you've got no telephone, no television, no radio. You're allowed 5 letters a month to write out to people, but you can only write to one person per letter, so you can't write to a family group, it's got to be just the one person in that group. So it was hard, very, very difficult. I had to learn Japanese because there's no English spoken. I had to adopt the customs and the lifestyle of the Japanese, and it was very, very difficult. I lost nearly 14 kilograms in weight. I was down to 68 kilos. I'm now 73, 74. I mean 83, 84. Yeah, so it was hard. And I've come out of it. Okay, what have I come out with? Right, as I said, the PTSD from the landmines and that pales into insignificance. To be cut off from society, literally cut off 100%, not being able to talk to people, not being able to write to people, not knowing what's even going on in the outside world, it's soul destroying. That's the only way I can describe it. So, I look at what I've gained from it. Well, I can speak Japanese, I can write Japanese, and I can sew really well because that was my jobs. We were in a factory that produced kimonos, so I can sew very nicely and iron and cut cloth. Eat with chopsticks. You've got to look upon all of the positives, you see. If you start dwelling on the negatives, it's not really any good. Yeah, so where am I now? I've lost everything. My company it folded because I was away for 2.5 years. Well, 2.5 years going through the trials. I couldn't send my passport, so the taxman decided to take everything. So I lost every single one of my possessions, and so I'm at ground zero again. And it's now, right, the only way is upwards. So, what couldn't I do when I was in Japan? Well, you can't exercise, you can't train, you can't do anything really. You work 6 days a week, you get 1 day off. There's nothing to do in the cell, or even if you could do it, there's rules on for everything: how you sleep, how you sit, how you stand, how you read, how you write. There's a rule for everything. So now those rules have been taken away from me, and so I've got to rethink my own life and put my own spin on things, my own scheduling and routine. But I've since found out that I can exercise. The doctors were wrong. They've now changed their mind. They say that exercise is good for me. Yeah, 25 years down the line, thank you very much. So I've now got the goals of this year. I'll be doing some charity cycling events. I'm already up to 90 kilometers a day cycling, which is pretty damn good, since I only started 6 weeks ago, and the weather's been atrocious. I do a lot of walking because, of course, I couldn't walk anywhere in the Japanese jails. You're kept very confined. So I like being out in the open air. I like being able to choose what I'm eating and cook it myself to the way I like. Exercising and being able to talk, actually being able to talk to people. So, if anybody's suffering from PTSD, and I know there's a lot of us, especially servicemen, find something that you like and make that an important part of your life and develop it, because by developing it you are setting yourself little steps along the route. It's pointless saying, I'm here, I want to go there, and it's 100 miles away. You'll never get there. But if you say, I'm here, and all I've got to do is walk 10 yards, and once I get there, another 10 yards. If you keep doing that, believe me, the 100 miles, it disappears. That's one of the things I've gained, I learned from Japan. The first 3 years was hell, because I was looking at the whole sentence, the total sentence, and thinking, 10 years is a long time, and it's a long time out of my life. Oh yeah, so that's the other thing in Japan, there's none of this namsy-pamsy of, okay, we'll give you 10 years, but you only serve 3. 10 years is 10 years, that's it, there's no getting away from it. Yeah, you've got to serve full time. So I looked at 10 years, so right, that's too much for my brain to comprehend. What my brain did comprehend was, I woke up in the morning and said, right, all I've got to do is make it to lunchtime. Sit down, have lunch. Yay! Lunch is here. Right, now what have I got to do? I've got to make it till 4:30. That's when our shift ended. 4:30 comes, get changed, back into your clothes. Right, now what have I got to do? Make it to 9:30 when I switch the lights off. So I broke my day down into 3 waking portions. And all I had to do was get through each of those portions. It ended up that by about 2016, 2017, I couldn't even tell you what month it was or even what year it was. But I could tell you what section of the day I was in. And to me that was all I needed to know. I was taking small steps. As I say, if you look at the big picture is frightening. But if you're just looking at something very, very close, it's very intimate, you can see it. And you break it down to those little mosaic tiles. It's dead easy. You can do anything. And yeah, that's it. Now I've got some great friends here. Absolutely magic. And they listen to me talk, which, let's face it, 10 years of having my mouth shut up means I've got a lot to say. Not all of it is good, but anyway.